There's a special kind of quiet that only exists within your own walls. Not the silence of emptiness or boredom, but the kind that wraps around you like warmth. It's the hum of a refrigerator in the next room, the soft tick of a clock, the faint creak of the floorboards that only you notice. And for once, you realize you don't have to be anywhere else. It's not isolation. It's safety. It's peace. People often misunderstand that. They see someone who loves staying home and assume avoidance, that they're hiding, disconnected, afraid of the world. But for some souls, home isn't an escape from life. It's where life finally slows down enough to be felt. Because out there, in the endless noise of competition, comparison, and expectation, they start to lose their shape. Home is where they return to remember who they are. For many, that feeling took root early. Maybe it began in childhood. The classroom, the cafeteria, the crowded bus spaces buzzing with noise and pressure. You had to shout to be heard, pretend to be fine, smile on cue to belong. So instead, they began to build a quieter world inside their minds, a gentler one. That's how home stopped being a location and became something sacred, a sanctuary built of stillness. Psychologists say people who crave solitude often have highly sensitive nervous systems. Their brains take in more sound, more light, more emotion, until it becomes too much. So when they retreat to quiet, it's not avoidance, it's equilibrium. Their body is saying, "Here, I can exhale." But there's more to it than overstimulation. There's something almost spiritual about the peace of home. It's the only place where we can remove the costume, the polite, curated version of ourselves that performs through the day, knowing when to laugh, how to blend, how to please. When the door closes, that mask finally falls away. What's left isn't performance, it's presence. The version of you that simply is. It's strange, isn't it? You can spend an entire day surrounded by people and still feel unseen. Yet the moment you're home, sitting by a window with a cup in your hand, the quiet feels like being witnessed. Not by anyone else, but by your own soul. That's the secret beauty of solitude. It isn't disconnection, it's intimacy turned inward. We live in a culture that glorifies extroversion, a world that prizes motion, productivity, and constant display. We treat silence as suspect and stillness as unambitious. But there's quiet strength in those who can be alone without feeling empty, because they've learned that fulfillment doesn't always come from noise. Sometimes it's born in the spaces between. There's an old saying, if you don't go within, you go without. For those who love staying home, turning inward isn't hiding, it's aligning. It's how they process emotion, reset the nervous system, and rediscover what's genuine. When you're always surrounded by others, your identity splinters. You become a slightly different self for every crowd. But home gives you back your wholeness. Here, there's no audience to impress, just you, and that's enough. Of course, solitude has a delicate edge. Too much turns into isolation. Even the most inward spirits need connection. But paradoxically, those who cherish time alone often form deeper bonds than most, because they don't scatter their energy across the superficial. They crave connection that feels true, where silence is comfortable, where words are optional, where presence itself says everything. Studies on solitude reveal something quietly remarkable. People who spend deliberate time alone often show higher creativity and emotional depth. Not because they're smarter, but because they reflect. They let their emotions breathe instead of burying them. They think about their thoughts instead of fleeing from them. In stillness, clarity surfaces. In quiet, healing begins. Think about the moments when life's biggest realizations found you. They didn't arrive in the middle of noise or laughter. They came when the world went still, in the shower at midnight during a slow walk home, or sitting quietly in your room long after everyone else had gone to sleep. That's the hidden strength of staying home. It gives your mind the silence it needs to finally speak clearly. But here's the irony. Many people who love being home carry a quiet sense of guilt. They worry they're missing out, that the real world is happening somewhere else without them. Social media only sharpens that ache. Endless photos of parties, vacations, and smiling faces make stillness feel like failure. But those images are fragments, not truth. Everyone is searching for peace. For some, peace just happens to look like staying home. There's something profoundly human about needing a space to retreat, to pause, to reset, to breathe. In ancient times, monks wandered into caves or mountains seeking stillness. Of course, not everyone understands this. Some will tell you you need to get out more, as if peace were a problem to be fixed. They don't realize that staying home doesn't mean doing nothing. Growth can happen in silence too. Reading, journaling, reflecting, dreaming. These are small revolutions unfolding in private. People who cherish solitude aren't avoiding the world. They're preparing for it. They recharge, rebuild, and when they finally step outside, they bring calm instead of chaos. There's also a deep comfort in routine. The brain thrives on predictability. It's how anxiety softens. Familiar spaces, familiar sounds. They tell the nervous system, you're safe now. For someone who finds peace at home, predictability becomes a sacred ritual. It's not monotony, it's regulation. Each act, making morning coffee, lighting a candle, arranging the same corner of a room, becomes a quiet reminder that safety still exists. And yet, in a culture addicted to productivity, that kind of stillness feels almost radical. We've been taught that worth is measured in activity, that to matter we must always be visible, busy, achieving. But those who love staying home gently defy that rule. They show that meaning doesn't always come from motion. Sometimes it's born in pause, in the quiet noticing of rain against a window, in the luxury of unhurried thought. Maybe that's why homebodies often carry rich inner worlds. Time alone becomes fertile ground for imagination. The longer you stay still, the more beauty you begin to see. You start finding poetry in the ordinary, the way light slides across a wall, the slow dance of dust in the air, the faint laughter drifting from another room. There's wonder there, soft, subtle, but real. It's a slower happiness, one that doesn't need to be posted or proven. Some people will never understand it, and that's okay, because what looks like solitude to others often feels like belonging to those who finally made peace with stillness. For some, silence feels suffocating, and solitude feels like exile. But for those who find comfort in staying home, silence isn't emptiness, it's harmony. It's the quiet music of finally being enough. There's a beautiful contradiction hidden in these people. They're often called distant, detached, or too reserved. Yet the truth is, they feel everything. Every sound, every glance, every fleeting word leaves an imprint. And when the world grows too loud, their instinct isn't to flee, it's to protect. It's not avoidance of others. It's care for themselves. You can tell so much about a person by the way they tend to their space. Some fill their homes with sunlight and laughter, music spilling through open windows, plants reaching for warmth. Others prefer soft lamps, heavy blankets, and the quiet hum of a candle burning low. Each space becomes a reflection of its keeper, an outer echo of their inner world. The quiet ones build warmth. The dreamers build comfort. The thinkers build order. And behind those walls, entire universes bloom unseen. Psychologists studying solitude and creativity have found something profound. Those who spend intentional time alone often show higher levels of originality, empathy, and imagination. Because solitude gives the mind space to breathe, to listen to its own rhythm without interruption or performance. When you're constantly surrounded by people, your thoughts start speaking a public language, filtered, edited, shaped by how they'll sound to others. But when you're alone, your thoughts return to their native tongue, and that's where real creativity begins. Think of the artists, writers, and visionaries who changed the world. Most of them cherished solitude, not out of disdain for people, but from devotion to their inner worlds. They needed the stillness to wrestle with ideas that couldn't exist in noise. Virginia Woolf once said, "A woman must have money in a room of her own if she is to write fiction." But that truth belongs to everyone. Every person needs a room of their own, literal or symbolic, to uncover who they are. People who love staying home understand that the outside world doesn't define them. They don't need noise to feel alive or validation to feel worthy. Because when you've spent enough time with yourself, you stop chasing applause. You start building peace that no one else can touch. Of course, solitude isn't always gentle. When distractions fade, your thoughts grow louder. And that can be uncomfortable. That's why not everyone can sit in silence, because silence reflects what they've been running from. But those who stay with it, who let the quiet do its work, discover something essential. Peace isn't the absence of thought. It's the acceptance of it. They learn to sit with their own emotions without drowning in them, to let feelings rise and fall without judgment. That's emotional maturity, the stillness that comes from truly knowing yourself. Psychology tells us that comfort with solitude is one of the strongest indicators of self-awareness. People who enjoy their own company tend to have steadier identities. They bend less under pressure. They rely less on approval. They navigate life guided by internal values, not external noise. Because once you've spent time in silence, you learn the difference between your own voice and the world's. That's how wisdom grows, quietly, patiently, in places no one's looking. It's not that those who love home never feel lonely. They do. But their loneliness has texture. It's not the ache of emptiness. It's the yearning for connection that feels genuine. They'd rather sit alone than sit beside people who make them feel unseen. That's not arrogance. It's discernment. And when they do find kindred spirits, they love deeply, softly, completely. Because they understand the cost of energy, and they choose to spend it only where it truly matters. They give attention with care, affection with intention, and trust with time. That's why their relationships tend to endure. They're built on substance, not sound. But there's another side to this quiet love of home that few people talk about. Sometimes it isn't born from peace, it's born from exhaustion, from the ache of being misunderstood, from a world that keeps asking them to be versions of themselves that don't feel honest. For them, home isn't escape, it's recovery. Psychologists call it emotional decompression. It's what happens after too many hours of holding yourself together. That feeling when you walk through your own door, drop your bag, and exhale without even realizing you'd been holding your breath all day, that's not laziness. That's healing. You've spent the entire day managing impressions, suppressing reactions, performing calm. When you finally reach the safety of home, your body stops pretending. Every mask slips, every tension softens. That's your nervous system saying, you made it. People who find comfort in solitude often live with heightened empathy. They feel the temperature of a room without a word being spoken. They notice tone, posture, the quiet changes in energy that most overlook. It's a gift, but also a heavy one, because absorbing that much of the world's emotion drains you. So they retreat, not to hide, but to recharge. And when they return, they come back lighter, gentler, clearer. The more you look at it, the clearer it becomes. Staying home isn't just a preference. It's a rhythm. Some people are wired for motion, drawn to movement, energy, and constant engagement. Others are wired for reflection, attuned to detail, pattern, and peace. Neither is superior. There's simply two ways of being human. But because society celebrates speed and spectacle, the slower ones, the thinkers, the feelers, sometimes mistake their stillness for flaw. They're not broken. They're simply tuned to a different frequency. And there's beauty in that difference. The world needs both, the ones who chase horizons and the ones who make sense of the journey. The explorers and the observers, the ones who fill the air with sound and the ones who listen deeply enough to find meaning in the noise. It's often the listeners who give life its language, who translate chaos into understanding, distraction into depth, and noise into art. Maybe that's why so many writers, philosophers, and artists feel most alive in solitude. It's not that they're running from the world. They're trying to feel it more fully. They turn stillness into clarity, silence into expression, solitude into creation. Their homes become living reflections of their inner worlds, small, sacred extensions of their minds. Every shelf, every candle, every quiet corner holds memory and meaning. But this truth isn't limited to artists. For anyone, home is where the psyche reorganizes itself. It's where we lay down the emotional weight we couldn't carry in public. It's where we sort through the chaos of being too many versions of ourselves for too long. That return, that coming home to one's own self is one of the most essential human needs. Because no matter how far we wander, we all need somewhere to land. A space where we can drop the armor and simply exist. For some, that safe place is found in people. For others, it's found in stillness, in soft light, familiar walls, and the hum of quiet life. There's something sacred about those who choose calm over clamor. It takes courage to turn away from the noise, to resist the pressure to perform, and to find value in being unseen. Because in that unseen space, something rare happens. Authenticity returns. You stop living to impress. You start living to express. You start to see life less as a race and more as a dialogue, a slow, unfolding exchange between you and existence itself. And suddenly, the walls that once felt like limits begin to feel like wings. That's the quiet truth about those who love staying home. They're not escaping life. They're experiencing it differently. They're noticing it, feeling it, honoring it in gentler rhythms. They aren't running away from the world. They're building a smaller, kinder version of it, one where the soul can breathe again. And when they finally step outside, when they choose to rejoin the noise, they carry something rare with them. Calm. They don't compete for attention, they bring balance. Because once you've found peace in solitude, you stop searching for it in chaos. You stop asking others to make you feel at home because you've learned how to carry home within you. So if you're one of those people who finds comfort in stillness, don't apologize for it. Don't let the world convince you that peace is passivity or that comfort means complacency. You're not missing out. You're tuning in. You're doing the quiet, invisible work that keeps life meaningful. Because when the world grows uncertain, it's often the quiet ones who've already found clarity, not in noise or movement, but in the gentle rhythm of ordinary days, in the glow of morning light, in the whisper of rain at dusk, in the steady sound of your own heartbeat inside a room that finally feels like yours. Because home, real home, isn't a structure. It's a state of peace you build for yourself. It's patience turned into space, presence turned into safety. It's where you meet yourself again and again until one day you understand you were never really alone. You were just coming home to yourself. People sometimes assume that staying home means you've stopped living, but often it means you've stopped running. There's a strange kind of freedom that appears when you no longer feel compelled to chase every invitation, every trend, every plan that promises joy but delivers emptiness. You start realizing that happiness doesn't always need an audience, that the best moments often arrive quietly. The tap of rain on glass, the scent of something warm baking, the sunlight shifting across the floor at 4 in the afternoon. You begin to notice how your heart slows when the outside world fades, how your thoughts soften when you're not competing with the noise of others. That isn't isolation, it's reunion, a coming together of mind, body, and breath. And yet even in that serenity, guilt can whisper, because we live in a culture that equates visibility with worth. Where to be unseen feels like to stop existing. But maybe stepping out of sight is how you finally come into focus. Maybe quiet living isn't disappearing, it's returning. Returning to a life that exists without performance. At home, you learn that solitude isn't the absence of connection. It's what makes connection real again. You realize that not every friendship needs daily proof. Not every dream needs applause. Not every day must earn its worth. There's a sacred beauty in the invisible life, in the progress no one claps for, in the peace that only you can feel. And maybe that's the secret after all. People who love staying home aren't running from life. They're walking toward it softly, deliberately, without the static. They're rediscovering what it means to be. Not to impress, not to perform, but simply to feel. Because sometimes the bravest act isn't motion at all. It's the stillness that whispers, "You are enough, even here, even now, even in silence."